Hi and welcome to Angling For You. Today you join me at the wonderful Birkwood Fisheries. We're fishing on Molly's Pond today, and we're after just a mixed bag of fish. So today's session really is going to be about fishing the expander pellet, and we're going to fish that over a ground bait. We'll probably feed a few 4mm hard pellets as well, but I just want to go a little bit through about the ground bait and a little bit of thought process behind it. There's a lot of big skimmers in here, there's a lot of F1s, and there's a lot of silverfish. So we're just looking for a real nice mixed bag, put a light elastic on and have some fun really. Just a nice relaxing, easy session where we just fish for anything that swims, and hopefully we catch some. So got a small bait tub here, and yes, we could have a big bucket. I have got a big bucket, but I've not got it with me today. It does make it easier for mixing your ground bait up, but in this instant it's fine. So we've got three little things here for this ground bait today. Or you can fish any sort of ground bait really in regards to fishing for carp. They're like anything, but because we've got mixed here, we want to sort of introduce some other things. So this one we've got here is a method. Now the method, as we know, this is a bait tech one, and the most of them are fairly generic in regards to they contain sort of crushed particles that we can put together, and it can go on a method feeder, or we can feed it, you know, in conjunction with other things, or just on its own down the margins, or as we're doing today at distance. Now that's the base. It's obviously got a sweet attraction, it's got those little miniature particles in there crushed up. That's the base of the mix. So I'm just going to put that to the side. Again, the colour is important. It's sort of a darky brown colour. Once I go through the next bits that we're going to put in it, it's got sort of that silty coloured bottom, and we want something that's not going to be too, well, let's say it stands out too much in regards to that it looks bizarre. We want it to be fairly natural and attract those fish to come and mill around on it. So the second thing we've got is a Sensor's ground bait. I use this all the time, and I use it a lot for my winter fishing and for my cage fishing. It's a low feed sort of ground bait. It's an explosive feeder mix. So again, what I mean by low feed is that they're not really gaining or filling up on it. That's why I tend to use it in the winter, and the reason I use the explosive one is because it fizzes and bubbles and dissolves and gives that attraction, and that's what obviously I want from the ground bait today. It's also, again, it's a darker colour, and that's what we want for this silty bottom. So it is a good idea to look at the ground baits like that. The ground baits are various different colours, and it's good to, if you know your venue, just scrub around with a pot and see what the bottom looks like, because if you some have a clay coloured bottom, and you can have more of a reddy brick coloured ground bait, and it's good to mix those together. Wow, that's just gone quiet with that turning off. The other bit is, and I always have some with me, it's just some brown crumb. Now anytime that I'm fishing for a mixed bag of fish, I have brown crumb. Two reasons: one, it attracts anything likes it, and two, again, with the addition of this Sensor's ground bait, it has that fizzy, bubbly kind of property that creates a cloud and obviously gets the fish interested. So what I'm going to do is start with a marine halibut. Now this marine halibut mixture, what I want to do in regards to parts is I want probably 40% of the halibut, and then I want about 30% of the explosive feeder, and then the rest brown crumb. So as you can see in there, it's got like hemp and crushed corn and stuff like that, and it really does get sort of fizzes up when it gets on the bottom, and I love it. I fish with it every year and I have some really good results, and I normally mix it in with Lake Mix or Black Magic, and it works really good. So we've just added the brown crumb to it, and then and a lot of you people are going to say, oh, the bowl's too small. It is too small, you're right, but I ain't got my big bowl with me, so it's one of them. So you have to deal with it. So yeah, and I'll go on to that. If you have, it's better to have a bucket and a ground bait or a bigger ground bait bowl to mix. It just makes your life a lot easier. So bad for me, but we'll crack on regardless. So when you make your paste, if you've seen paste videos before, powder to water, ground bait completely different, water to powder. and the reason that is you can get the consistency. Paste, it's always going to be wet, it's always going to be heavy. Groundbait's completely different. In this case though, we do want it to go to the bottom, so we're not too worried about riddling it or anything like that, because it's going to go down to the bottom and it's going to stay on the bottom. We want it to break down on the bottom, so I'm not too worried about if it's slightly overwetted and it's slightly got clumps in it. That's not a problem. So I've just put a little bit of water in to start with, and what I tend to do is to just bring that round, and once you've done groundbait for a few times, you'll feel when it's the right consistency or start to be the right consistency. What I tend to do is, once I've got somewhat of the water that I think, I start to pick it up. And if you've ever made anything like crumble mix or anything like that, it's exactly the same scenario. So you pick it up and you rub it, rub two clumps that you've got in your hands together through your fingers, and that distributes that water through your mix. Now, it's quite a dry mixture, is this, in regards to it absorbs a lot of water, and that's to do anytime you put breadcrumb in any groundbait, it absorbs a lot of water, so it will take quite a bit of water, this. So as you can see, we've probably put just over half a pint of water in there, and it's not really touched it. So obviously we've rubbed that through, and we're just going to keep adding that water, and we will have to come back to this after sort of 10 minutes and put a bit more water in there. And I really should have brought my groundbait bucket, but you live and learn. There's I fished the other side of the pond today and it was a bit of a walk, so to be honest, anything else that I didn't have to carry is a bonus. But normally I've got a groundbait bucket, so if you have got a groundbait bucket, bring that. But doing this this way of breadcrumb, almost like when you do your crumble, like I say with crumble mix, you do distribute it quite well. So even if you are in a small bowl, I tend not to have any what they call wet patches or corners that you keep that are stodgy and the rest of it's not mixed in. So I go around all the corners and I make sure it's all mixed together, so it's not really a problem, even if even though it is smaller. So it is starting to come together now, as you can see, and we've still got plenty of water that we can add to it. That's, like I say, it is going to absorb this water, and it is going to be over-wetted when we fish it, and that's important for getting that bait down, because it doesn't stay too long. Like I said, the mixture that I use, really the carrier in there is that marine halibut style method mix, and that's the one that you want to bind this mixture together, whereas the explosive feeder and the brown crumb are the ones that are going to break down fast and cause that bubbling effect, which is what we want to do and keep those fish down. So that's the wettest consistency that I'd like for now. I'm going to leave that for 10 minutes while I do my plumbing up and my setting up and everything like that, and we'll have a look at that, and we'll come back to this and we'll see how it wants adjusting, and we'll have a little chat about that. Right guys, so this has been set now, and you can see it's quite dry and it breaks down really easily. We need to add that water back to that to bring it back to a sort of heavier consistency. And like I said to you before, we just want to get this down to the bottom, get that breaking up, and I want it to create that cloud and that attraction. We're not going to feed ridiculous amounts of this to start with, even though we're September time and it's still 22 degrees today, so fish are still feeding. It has been cold overnight, but we're going to go 2 pots to start with. 2 pots and probably 1/3 of a pot of pellets. We'll show you when we get on the box, but 2 pots and 1/3 of a pot of pellets will be enough to start with, and then we'll start feeding little and often depending on how the peg builds. But as you can see now, it's a good old ball. It's a bob nud ball is what I'll call it. Good old bob, stand behind the box, throwing them in with your pole on pole hooks. I remember watching that years ago, but that's what we kind of want it to do. And it looks quite heavy, but when we actually add this to water, it'll start to fizz down, and create a lovely cloud right on the bottom, right where we want the fish, and hopefully that'll put us on some fish. So just to swirl those hands off, get around on the box, let's go through the rig. I'll talk a little bit about plumbing up and what we're looking for, and then we'll hopefully catch some fish. Alright guys, let's have a little go through the bait. So obviously we've seen the ground bait being mixed. I'm using spotty fin pellets, 4.5mm expanders. I don't do them the same way as everybody else does an expander in a pump. All I do is I get some water, sometimes I put an additive in depending on what venue I'm on. This one I'm just as is, and I've literally put them in there, they're all floating, and I grab one and I put it under the water and squeeze and release under the water, and then that will sink. That's the way I do it. I don't mess about with pellet pumps. The good things, just not my bag, just do them when I need them. And the rig, let's get up and walk round and we'll show you the rig. So obviously we're starting to get to that time of year where we're changing what we fish with, and changing how strong the lines are, and also the hooks. So I've got a really light hydrofusion Pro-Gen elasticon. It really is light for these potentially skimmers and F1s, and then I've got Pro-Gen Gen Pro line, and that's 013. I've got it straight through. I ain't got a hook link on, there's no snags here. We're out in front, and I just want that all direct, so then I can hit the fish. There don't need to be a weak point on there. I've got a 0.2 Pro-Gen float. It's normally I probably might go for a shanty float, but I'm running a bit low today, and to substitute that you can use sort of the longer margin floats. It's not still ridiculously deep, we've only got about 3.5 foot, so if I went any more than 3.5 foot, then I'd be going to a shanty, maybe a 0.4 or 0.5. So I've got all the shot on the line are number 10s, so they're the slots, they're from Pro-Gen. So I've got one about half an inch underneath the float, and then from that I've got one about 12 inches from there, and then I've got them in a sort of I've got 4 in a line in sort of like a shirt button style. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're all about 4-inch spacings, and then between that last shot and the dropper we've probably got about a good 11-inch or so, and then we've got probably another 4 inches to the hook. The hook is KKMB size 18, and what I've done is over depth by an inch, and that's so it'll lay on the bottom for bit softer presentation. It's not going to be moving around, it's going to be stationary, and it allows the fish to have a little bit more confidence to take that bait. Now moving above the float, I've got 6 inches, and then I've got another shot. If you see on the water, there's a little bit of chop on, there's a little bit of left to right wind, and that's just allowed me to keep my float stable in the peg. That's why I've got probably about just over a foot's worth of line, because I'll be striking against this shot, and it'll allow me to just hold the float a little bit better. It'll be kept taut, so it'll be instant on the bites, but it just allows me to control that float a little better. What we'll do is we'll get back on the box, and we'll get a pellet on. See if we can have right, so I've put 2 sized, I'll just show you, that down there. I've put 2 250mm pots of the ground bait in that we made earlier on. I squeezed them into a sort of a big strong ball, or a bob nud ball as I call them, and we've potted those in. We've left them sort of roughly 15-20 minutes now, and in there I put a small handful, and we're talking sort of this much, of 4mm pellets, and probably 8 to 10 grains of sweet corn. That's all, and they're just for feed, and I'll alternate that as we go along. So starting off, I'm gonna feed a little nugget of ground bait, but I'm not going to feed any more pellets, and I'm obviously going to have the expander on. So very important when you're sort of fishing like this is to just make sure you've got everything to hand. I know I mention it every time, but everything to hand. Landing net handles right next to me here, and you know, all the items that I need are right next to me. Right guys, I'm going to go about showing you how to hook these expanders. So firstly, getting the expander, like I said, just grab one and pinch it under the water and let go, and then that one will now sink. To hook it, what you need to do is grab the hook like so, hook to the side and just roll the expander till the shank of the hook comes out like that, and then that's it. Nice and easy. Let's get it fishing. So what you want to do is get that small piece of ground bait. You want just boil it up. It's over wetted like we said before, sort of nugget size, and that's going to get pushed in to that pot, and we'll tap that out when we get out there. Take your time shipping out expanders. Although these ones are quite good, they're not always known for the stability when you're fishing it and dragging them through the water. That's the only downside about expander fishing. They don't always stay on the hook when you're striking. Well, they definitely don't stay when you're striking, but they don't always stay on the hook when you're shipping them out. So just make sure you've hooked it well, and make sure you take your time in putting them out. So I've got a tree on my far marker, and I've got the join of my pole. Drop that little bit of ground bait, and then once that ground bait's dropped, I'm lifting out of the water and just lowering that rigging bit by bit. If you just drop your rigs in, that's when you tend to end up with tangles and all sorts of things like that. And it's shotted right down to the tip nicely, and it allows us just to see those quick bites. As we all know, F1 bites are quick. Skimmer bites can be quite quick as well. I have got sweet corn as an additional bait, but today, for this purpose, the video is about using that expander pellet, and that expander pellet is just hooked as the first fish of the day, which is good. And they are really good on a general this time of year, and it's a very light elastic, and it feels like a nice sort of F1 or skimmer to start the session, which is what we sort of expect to catch. Got a double break on the pole today because we've got quite a short distance behind. It's light elastic doing its job. It's just always, when you're fishing the light elastic, just make sure you know where things are going, and we don't point any tips of poles directly at it, and that's when we lose top kits and things like that. But on a light elastic to start, feels like a small fish. And like I say, that's what we're aiming for today. We're just a nice little session, sort of F1s and, you know, skimmers, eyed, that kind of thing. All fish like pellets though, so there's always a chance of hooking a silly fish, which will be quite interesting with this small elastic, that's for sure. But it's just like a little F1. Putting up a good account of itself. And this light gear. It's not all about putting 016 on and pulling the red off every time. We got this elastic sort like number 6, equivalent around that area, 6 to 8. Super light, lots of fun with these sort of little F1s, and oh, it's actually not an F1, it's a mirror, so it's a nice start. That is a nice start, actually a bit bigger fish than what we expected to catch, but probably knocking on £3, I would say. Hooked beautifully inside the lip. I'll just get that. Look at that lovely little tiny KK&B out doing its job in the top lip, and that's what I mean by the over depth. Just gives them that confidence to pick that bait up. That's a nice little start. Nice fish to start the session, and just shows how quickly that ground bait is pulling those fish in. And it's important that we leave that little amount of time, so obviously using that 20 minutes of rest time just when you put your pot in, and that you're not going straight over the top of it, just gives them a little bit of time to get comfortable. As soon as I had a fish straight away, I'm going to push another little nugget into there, especially if there's a sort of carp around, and we can continue to keep them in the peg. So a little bit of a tip when you do stuff like that and you're hooking it, especially when you've got long pieces of line, just shove the top kit underneath your arm like so. So now that gives me 2 hands to hook the pellets, and you know the top kit's ready. I've got it trapped in my arm, so nothing's gonna drop out, and we're ready to go. So again, like get into that routine, that pellet drops, dropped it straight in the water, that sinks straight away, so that's what we want. It's just about getting routinely and getting comfortable. Everything's to hand. Spent the time, I've got an uneven peg, I've spent the time adjusting that box to get comfortable. We've spent time putting his rollers in the right place, so then that they're easily to split behind us, and that's why I like the dual rollers as well. I always recommend the dual rollers if you can afford to get them, because it just allows you to be comfortable behind. So again, now we're just gonna lay that rig in. Let's give that a couple of seconds for that ground bait to drop down. I'm just going to lower that rig in, and that bite was once it was settled, probably 30 seconds before we got that initial bite. And the float just sits nicely. We've just got the tip of the float showing, and that's all you need. You want to see those fast bites, but you don't want, you want the tip just showing so you can hit those little quick F1 bites. Into another fish now. Feels like a silver fish, this one, like a skimmer. What we anticipated we would catch. Yep, this is the fish that I assumed we would catch today. The little fish. I wanted a little bit bigger stamp than this one. Well, little fish. Let's get him back. Lovely bite. Feels like another skimmer. Slid away beautifully that float. Yep, another skimmer. Slid away beautifully, and that's the reason why we have that over depth, and that light elastic's beautiful. That's a lot better stamp skimmer than the last one, and hopefully they're the bigger stamp fish are moving in, which is what we wanted to catch. And it's going to need a bit of a disgorging, I think. And then we'll get him lifted up. Just in the bone in the corner of the mouth. Now people moan about skimmers because obviously they've got this slime on the line. Just collect it and just rub it on your whatever you're wearing. It's going to be washed anyway, but the big tip of mine is always wash them. Don't leave them, because if you do leave them, then what happens is the slime eventually will degrade your stuff. That obviously don't want to be held up, but look, a little bit better stamp fish. What we'll do is we'll change that camera angle and see if we can continue to pull them out. Another, what feels like another skimmer. Hooks just come out in the net, which is nice and helpful for sure. So I hope this video has been helpful to you. Pellet, expander, all great methods. And the reason I wanted to do expanders is obviously leading into that autumn season when it's starting to get colder and you need to catch more silvers in between catching the odd carp, and it becomes into its own. It still obviously catches carp, as we saw throughout the video, but it's a very good holding and sort of multi-fish catching bait is using an expander. So give it a go, see what you think. Join us on the Facebook group, Angling For You. Join us on the Instagram at angling_for_you. Like I say, we'll be bringing some more challenge videos out, and check out us reviews, as tackle times. They're all in different playlists, and you can check them out just going onto the channel and having a look. And thanks a lot for all your support as always, and tight lines.